Hello, hello. Welcome
Hey,
back.
what's up? Okay, Jerry, real quick, no lie, that countdown music is slick a bop. Okay.
It's about
It is.
I like it. I like it. It gets me in the mood.
Period. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Happy Monday.
It's a
Happy.
mashup Monday.
It is a
Uh,
mashup Monday. It's a mashup Monday after amazing Nashville Black Pride weekend here in Nashville, Tennessee. We did all the things all weekend. We are tired, but we are still going and giving you what you want every week. Period.
Hey, praise the Lord. We
I
keep on pushing, keep building, keep living.
just real quick, Jay. Can we do this real quick? What was a quick your one highlight that you have from the weekend? One quick highlight.
Oh, one quick highlight. I don't
Yeah.
know if I have one. There's so many great things. Okay, my one quick highlight has to
Mm-hmm.
be besides like the Holiness event,
Ooh.
which was amazing. It has to be Shabazz's performance of like Friday night. I feel like that was kind of like the amazing moment of like the weekend, which is kind of crazy because we had all these amazing performers all weekend. We had live like recording artists, like people who was singing, they face off, and like these children was dancing. They was giving us choreography. They had outfits on. People were changing wigs, honey. And but Shabazz, honey, that lives rent free in my head. That whole moment, like it looked like the time stopped doing his performance,
He did.
and like I just, I'm still if I could go back to it, that would be amazing. But,
Oh my gosh.
child, I just, it was that was probably the highlight of the weekend. Like I came and like that and that was at the top of it. So,
I'm going to have to agree with you. Shabazz is one of our awards recipients, and I have never seen somebody perform to accept the award. Didn't even have to say anything. It was
didn't say I
so.
have to say shit.
It to me it set the tone for the whole weekend. But
It did.
I do want to say I want to thank Glad for
Yes.
bringing down some amazing artists. They even had artists who were from Nashville participating, and so they made sure
Yeah.
that we in our city were included in that. And I mean, I just the whole weekend was amazing. I was glad to be a part of it, child.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It was amazing. It was amazing. I had a good time. I had a lot of fun, even though I worked really hard.
Hmm.
I still had a great time. I still had a great time. It's always good to see like how things come together and stuff at the end and to be in community and stuff. I think it's important that like people come to Nashville Black Pride. It's important for us to be around each other and
Hmm.
for us to love on each other and encourage each other to live like our authentic lives and
Hmm.
just to, be in community, child. It's like yeah, it's important.
I know that's right. What's our church announcements for today?
What's our church announcements? Well,
Mm,
I feel like we always got to talk about, our work that we do with all of us,
yes.
which is an initiative to recruit as many diverse people as we can to participate in this nationwide medical database. And it is a database that will help researchers provide diverse medicine, provide precision medicine that works for different people and different bodies. We historically only cisgender white males have been the main people who have been participating in research studies. So a lot of times medicine is only catered to work on a certain type of person. And a lot of other people, including myself, or maybe our mothers, the medicine may not work as well for us, or there may be side effects that may be more common in people that look like us and not other people because the health research studies are not catered to our body. So by participating in the All of Us research program, you can make sure that we have better medicine for all of us, for every one of us, all of us who have lived different lives, all of us who come from diverse backgrounds. So we hope that you all participate. Just go to our website at www.mashupnation.org and you can find the links to go to all of us, or you can find it on our link tree online. And there's a wonderful video circulating around the internet with my face on it that you can also find some stuff about all of us. Brian, we need to get an all of us commercial with your face.
Period.
Uh,
I'm ready. Let's go.
yes,
Book
because
me. Book me.
we will.
Yes, I'm ready for that.
All right, what's our next announcement? You want to?
Let's see. Ooh, okay. So real quick. So for Pride, we started off kicking off Pride, talking about sex in the Bible, and then we finished it on
Yes,
Sunday with our Holiness Project. And let me tell you, I am so excited that the Holiness Project brunch that we experienced yesterday, there's gonna be another version of this that's gonna be happening on November the 8th, correct? Saturday, November the
yeah.
8th.
November
In
the. Hold up.
oh, let me make sure I got
Is
it
it the
right.
eighth? Hold on, baby. Yeah, it's the ninth. It's the ninth.
Saturday, November the 9th. Saturday,
Saturday,
November the
November the
9th
ninth.
in
Yes,
Memphis, Tennessee. We're taking the
yes.
Project on the road. We are doing this in collaboration with the headliners, Memphis. Jay, you want to talk about some of the people that's involved? Please shout them out.
Yeah, I'm so really excited. It's gonna be an amazing panel. We're gonna have some music by Charmaine Tyrell and his band. They're gonna come in, take us to church. We're gonna have some food by Chef Eli, who's a award-winning chef in Memphis, is well known. Then also we're just black and queer all across the board.
Hmm.
And then we're gonna have amazing panelists with Pastor Bishop Darnell Gooch, Jasmine Tasaki from We Care, Tennessee. Um, William Taft is going to be our moderator. And I'm forgetting the other lady who is participating. Please, baby, I'm so sorry. I can't remember your name right now. Lord Jesus, let me pull up my thing. Brian, you Brian,
Oh
yeah.
my Lord, let's see. Yes, let's see how. Oh my gosh, don't be y'all pray for us, okay? Okay,
It's been a long weekend. It's
yes,
been a long weekend.
I threw him on the spot, but just know that it's going to be an experience, and you can
Yes.
register for that. We have a go to our website, mashupnation.org, and you will find under the events tab the link to register for it, and it will show you all the details of all the things and all the people that will be involved. The food is going to
Okay.
be popping, the mimosas going to be popping, and I know you got a name now. Let's go.
Yes. So the other person who's going to be the other panelist who's going to be on the panel is Tamisha Pruitt, and
Mm,
then we'll also have a resounding gospel drag performance
my
performed by
Lord.
Maria the Goat. And child, when I tell you our sisters have been taking it there, I know she's going to bless her. I've seen her perform
Mhm.
before, and like we caught the spirit. She brings the
Yes.
spirit. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good event. It's going to be so much fun.
Yes, it is. And the last church announcement that I have, Jerry, if I may, you
Hmm.
still have time to early vote. Okay. Stop
Yes.
playing. Stop playing. Stop
Yes.
playing. Go ahead and vote early because we know it's gonna be some shows and tricks. It's already some tricks and shows is already happening. I heard some ballot
Yo.
boxes have been burnt up. So y'all stop
That's
playing and y'all make
crazy.
sure when you go in that ballot box that you look at your selection 3, 4, 5 times before you put it in that and get submitted, okay? Because some trickery happening. But we ain't gonna let that happen because we showing up and making our voice heard, okay? All right, that's
Okay.
all I got. I'm ready for the guests. I'm
You
excited.
ready for the
Wow.
guest? You want to introduce our guest? You want to tell a little bit
Oh
about our
my
guest today?
goodness. Yes, yes, yes. I'm so excited that we have a dynamic community activist, a leader in the LGBTQ community, not just out of Florida where most of his work has been done, but all over the world. If you don't know this young man, you will know who he is after we talk with him. But can we please bring on the previous executive director, founder of Bros and Convo Initiative, Daniel Downer.
Yes.
Hey, y'all are
Hey,
just,
Daniel.
I love how you all are just bigging me up and gassing me up and affirming me. That is so kind and so sweet of you all. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that.
Yes, well, we appreciate you so much for being here. If you can you
Truly.
just expound a little bit on just who you are and what you got going on so that people know who you
Yeah,
are.
sure. So my name is Daniel J. Downer. My pronouns are he, him, his. I formerly was the executive director of the Bros and Combo Initiative, which is a Black queer initiative located in Orlando, Florida, that centers a lot of its work around the advancement, improvement, and equity of Black, Indigenous, people of color that are on some part of the LGBTQIA plus spectrum. And so that has been an amazing journey. But aside from that, I am a queer activist. I consider myself an angelic troublemaker and an oral historian of all things Black and queer, and just really excited to be sharing space with you all tonight, this evening, to talk about, holiness as it relates to spirituality. I feel like I've always kind of, as much as I've done so much work when it comes to activism and advocacy, I feel like I really haven't fully shared so much of my spiritual journey as an individual. And so I'm just really excited to kind of get into some things and share a little bit more about uh, me and what spirituality means to me and how that journey has been. Because I think it's something we don't talk a lot about, which is unfortunate because Black culture is rooted and centered in
Mhm.
spirituality and faith. And so I'm really glad to just kind of chop it up and kiki with y'all
Mhm.
for the next couple of minutes.
Yes, we appreciate you so much for being here. And I
Absolutely.
can think about there was I feel like I've been following your work for a long time, and I remember Daniel, there was a post a long time ago where you were talking about, and you had to refresh my memory, but you were talking about how people were wondering and
Yes.
curious about like the attire that you were wearing.
Yes, my kufi. Yes.
Yes, and the question
Uh,
how you could be Muslim and queer. Can we just let's just start from let's just back up a little bit, just to start from your
uh,
initial spiritual journey. Like how what religious practice did you start off growing up? What did you what was your experience and that
absolutely.
got you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian household, actually Adventist affiliated, and came into the world as a fourth generation ministry kid, minister's kid. So that gave me my first introduction to faith and what the faith community what the faith community is, right? And I definitely appreciate kind of like that foundation and some of the values that were set. But as I blossomed and bloomed into the fullness of who Daniel is and started to explore my queerness, there was a lot of external and internal struggles that I experienced because specifically in that faith community at that time, I felt like I was constantly being told to adjust or to cover or hide or even in some extreme cases cut out that part of myself, my queerness, to fit this mold or this image or representation of what a Christian is supposed to look like or should be, especially one that is a ministry kid or a minister's kid. And so uh, that often had me having to choose between who I was in my fullness, my sexuality, and then my faith, right? And that led me to ultimately question the nature of spirituality in the sense of, was it possible for me to be just fully authentically me with God as I am without having to hide or take away parts of myself? And so I think that's kind of when I recognize and realize that, maybe the faith community that I'm currently in is not necessarily the right fit for me. And I need to go on a journey of finding that faith community that feels like the right fit. And so that's kind of what started the path for me toward Islam, is that it began as a personal search, really, of trying to find a faith community and faith home that would allow me to embrace all of me and not just those pieces. And I think what drew me in particular to the Islamic faith was this emphasis on compassion and justice and really individuals having this personal connection with God. And I also want to preface that there's a privilege in that too, because I know that there are LGBTQIA plus Muslim siblings that I have who have not had the same privilege of that experience with the faith. and I want to acknowledge that. Also, when I was introduced to the Islamic faith, it was when I was doing my undergraduate studies in Atlanta. And so, Atlanta being, you know, a more progressive city, a city that's more affirming and welcoming of LGBTQIA plus individuals, I think I benefited from the privilege of attending a mosque that was more affirming and more welcoming. But it was a beautiful journey of finding that community, but also there was like a lot of unlearning that I had to do as well. And I think what really for me was kind of like a light bulb or aha moment is when I realized that within the Islamic faith, it encourages us to approach our spirituality not only with honesty, but one where we're celebrating our whole entire being and our whole entire self. And I think when I realized that, I was like, wow, here I am at a place where I don't feel the need to mute myself or to cover myself, or no one is telling me, we'll take this part of you, but we won't take that part of you, right? And so being able to just see throughout the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad how there was a highlight on empathy and respecting human rights, that really helped me to embrace all of my identities and see me embracing all of my identities as not only showing up authentically, but it was also a way of being able to honor God. And I had never ever heard that up until that point. And so yeah, the journey, my journey into the Islamic faith has really deepened my relationship with spirituality. Of course, because it allows me to fully exist as a being, and then also to authentically show up in my faith. But I also have come to see that it's allowed me to see these different parts of me as essential elements to enriching that connection to God, and has really given me such a strong sense of belonging and a self acceptance that I previously struggled with. And I think that has helped me make my faith even more stronger, and such a source of strength as well as wholeness.
I think so. There was a couple of things that it was that was so rich.
Yes.
It was so rich. And I like that you started off by acknowledging that your experience with Islam, with the Islam faith is probably a lot different than the other people's
Absolutely,
experience. Uh,
absolutely. I was gonna say,
yeah.
because you know, I think, and we probably are gonna go a little bit more into this in the conversation. All Muslims are not the same, and our
hmm
experiences aren't the same. And the Islamic faith is very diverse, just like the Christian faith
Yes.
is, right? Where you have maybe more conservative denominations within the Christian faith, you have more conservative denominations within the Islamic faith, and then you also have progressive, right? And so I think for me, acknowledging the privilege that I've experienced within the Islamic faith it does two things. One, it helps me to educate individuals around some of the misconceptions and stereotypes that and biases and prejudices that folks may have about the Islamic faith. But then two, it's a way of me holding myself accountable to say, I'm experiencing this and this is a privilege that doesn't need to be a privilege. It needs to be a right that
Mm.
all LGBTQIA plus Muslims can experience. And so I always try to speak that and name that privilege, because it also holds me accountable that part of my work as someone who is part of the Islamic faith is ensuring that everyone has that right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second thing I want to point out about what you said, and then we can go to the next question, Brian, is you mentioned you kind of started talking about how your journey, especially with Islam, is not, accepting and finding spirituality despite these different parts of yourself, but really realizing that real spirituality and wholeness and, a deep spirituality comes with embracing all these different parts of ourselves. And I think that especially when we grow up in these non-affirming faiths and, we have these different connections, we, say that God loves us despite of our sins, despite of our, sins, what we consider sins, despite of our homosexuality, despite of our gender, instead of thinking about those things as gifts in ways that God has, expressed his love or his, magnificence through us and made us these ways for a specific reason.
Absolutely. I think I had touched on it a little bit earlier. I think for me, that was one of the most mind blowing revelations and experiences I had as I was on that journey within the Islamic faith, was recognizing, wait, this is actually saying that me being queer brings me closer to God and not further away from God. And it was like, oh, really? Like, it was just, I was mind blown. And so yeah. And I think regardless of how you identify, whether it's Christian, is Muslim, or whatever sense of your spirituality, I fully believe that when we show up in the fullness of who we are,
Mm,
when we do not cover and when we do not hide, it spiritually brings us to a higher place and a more personal and connected place than ever before.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. No, this is rich, and I want to dig a little deeper.
absolutely.
And I think about how you share, like, your experience in coming to the Muslim faith may be different than other queer
Mhm.
people, but can you, if a queer person was just looking into the Muslim faith and was looking
Yeah,
for that space to be affirming, what could they find or read or understand? Any affirmations about the Muslim faith? Any, I'm not saying you can throw you on the spot, but like any
absolutely.
scripture or
Yeah,
saying or
absolutely.
practice where someone who's
Yeah,
queer says, yes, we're accepted here.
absolutely. So I have to say I was so blessed in the beginning of my journey as a Muslim to have a imam, which is the equivalent of like a minister or a priest or spiritual leader, who sat me down and really showed me some things. And what he showed me was that in his Islamic teachings, when they're examined, they reveal so much about compassion and inclusivity that is overlooked. And I know there are many people who have a lot of preconceived notions about Islam and LGBTQIA plus issues, but as I began to take a deeper look into the Quran, I recognized that it was really a way more inclusive message than I had ever thought. And so I think of specifically in the Quran, and I have my notes, so I'm going to pull it up if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Yeah,
Teach
so
us. Teach.
in the Quran, specifically in chapter 24, verses 31 through 33, it talks about and makes reference to men who are not in need of women. And I remember my imam sitting with me and us going through this, and him saying, this is actually interpreted as an acknowledgement of diverse gender outside of just strictly male or female, or could be reference to diversity in sexual identities. And it was done without judgment or condemnation. It said, it was the text, like, these are men who are not in need of women. And then there was no, it's not a sin. It's a sin. They need to be punished. There was no judgment or condemnation. And so I think that was really for me when I was like, oh snap, this is kind of getting deep, right? And I think another often misunderstood aspect is the language of the Quran itself. So there's nowhere in the Quran where it specifically explicitly states homosexuality at all. And actually, in the context of when the Quran was being developed, it didn't exist in that historical context. A lot of the inferences about homosexuality being a sin were a product or a byproduct of colonial influence, not the actual essence of Islam, because at the core of the Islamic faith, the core principles are built around mercy, justice, and the sacredness of diversity. Actually, in the Islamic faith, having diversity is seen as sacred, as being celebrated. And the Quran reminds us that our differences are actually very intentional and they're just a reflection of the creator's creative design. So that was another moment where I was like, oh, wow, a lot of unlearning had to be done. And I think what's so beautiful about this is, especially for, you know, it's a moment of enlightenment and education for individuals who are not part of the Islamic faith. But I think for those of us who are on the LGBTQIA plus spectrum and worship as Muslims, this perspective is very transformational because it reminds us that our faith, the Islamic faith, is really calling us to create communities that are rooted in compassion, that are rooted in acceptance, and to treat everyone with dignity. And I really think embracing these core values without the extra can really help us to truly build faith communities where LGBTQIA plus Muslims can feel honored and not sidelined, because that is the reality, that there are some within the Muslim faith that do feel isolated and feel discriminated against because of who they are. But I think using the core values of the Islamic faith and what the Quran says really helps us to build a foundation on mercy and inclusivity, and really encourage everyone to know that it's okay to be you. Being you is beautiful, and bringing who you are has such a sacred and meaningful place within the Islamic faith and the Islamic community.
Wow. Well, someone in the comment says, yes, edify the people. They say you edifying us in this conversation. And some put a heart there. Well, no, I really appreciate this context. And it even makes me think about some of the conversations we've had over the weekend, even from Thursday to Sunday, that a common theme is that as people learn and read and read and read, they learn more. And one of the part of what we were talking about on Thursday was breaking down some of those scriptures from the Bible that have been historically used against us. And as we really read and dissect and really break down what it really meant, break down the context of the scriptures, that actually, they have been taken out of context for harm, just the
And it
same
was
way
such
that
a
slavery was.
I experienced and continue to experience these moments of revelation because just being fully transparent, in the beginning of my journey within the Islamic faith, I approached it with a lot of bias and prejudice because I assumed that all Muslims were like the Nation of Islam, and I was quickly reminded by the faith community, the Islamic faith community, we are all not the same. We are all not the same. And like I shared with you, at its core, this is what it means to be a Muslim. This is what it means to be a part of the Islamic faith. And when I saw those core values and how inclusive the teaching was, and just even how in some cases, like in the Quran, there was a celebration of gender diversity and sexual diversity. I was like, well, I be darned. You know, like not to take up so much time because I know, but you know, we think of being LGBTQIA plus as like this westernized thing and very new and trendy. And when I read it, I was like, oh, this dispels all of this. We've been around since the dawn of time. And in the East, we've been celebrated and seen as sacred. So yeah, it was an enlightening moment, and also a beautiful moment. And I try, you know, in these moments, that's why I appreciate us having this space and this conversation, because it does allow the opportunity for folks to recognize that our chosen family of LGBTQIA plus folk, we're everywhere. We are in Christian faith spaces. We are in Muslim faith spaces. We are in Buddhist faith spaces. We are everywhere. And I think the more that we have these conversations, what we begin to recognize is when you strip away what I like to say, our denominational cultures or kind of norms, when you really dissect it, we all have the same core values. And one thing also that was enlightening for me was how within the Quran it talks about in paradise, which is our equivalent of heaven, there are going to be people who are not Muslim. Like it says it. And it's like, there are going to be people who are not Muslim. And it was like, what? Really? But it makes sense because, you know, I personally feel in paradise, they're going to be Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, just a diversity of folks, because at the core of everything are those values of mercy and justice and dignity and love and compassion. And so yeah, it has been such an enlightening journey, and there's still moments that I find I have to unlearn, you know. And that's the beauty of faith and spirituality, is it is a constant ongoing journey. It just doesn't stop once you reach one level of consciousness or one level of enlightenment.
I mean, that's beautiful. And I think we all should be like continually learning and continuing to go deeper. I think, you know, one of the things I really like that you said was, you know, how the Quran talks about that there will be all these different people in paradise and in heaven, which, you know, sounds real good to me. I know as a person who grew up in a Christian household, one of the things I always struggled with was the idea that like all these other people who did not profess the same faith would go to hell. And I'm just like, so you telling me the nice person in Asia who never heard of Jesus is gonna go to hell? Like that just never sat well with me. So that is interesting, and you know that like the Quran teaches that differently. And for someone who, like me who doesn't know a whole lot about the Islam faith, and you know one of the things that my dad used to say, he was a pastor, and he would say that you know you can't talk of or you, it's hard to defend your own faith or say that someone else is wrong. We don't even understand what their faith is. You know, if I can't tell you, I don't. If I haven't studied Islam, I can't say that Islam is wrong. You know, because I don't understand it.
And you know what's even, I don't want to say crazier, but you know what's even more interesting when you mention that
Mhm.
is part of the teaching of the Islamic faith is for us to make ourselves aware of other faiths and other spiritualities. Yeah, like it. So yeah,
I like that.
yeah, it's really mind blowing. But yeah, I agree with you. It's like, I think for me, it's really just taught me to always approach everything with a yearning for understanding and not necessarily to make an assumption. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned, is how to do away with assumptions,
Yeah.
about individuals, their faith, their spiritual background. And I think that's been a big thing that I've had to unlearn, like you, coming from a Christian household.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we had in the comments, Marnella said, yes, Daniel. And Eric said, yes, center us in the core values. That's universal truth. So the people are with us, okay?
Yeah.
So we're coming kind of to the end of the conversation, and Daniel,
Yep,
I want you to wrap this up in a nice bow, like
absolutely.
this, like your best going out, your best sermon that you about to preach to the people and reach somebody who may be
Woo!
searching right now,
Yeah.
and maybe looking towards the Islamic faith as their spiritual wholeness connection. Can you describe what you believe is spiritual wholeness where you are right now on your spiritual journey? What is spiritual wholeness to you?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna definitely hit, I'm gonna hit that. I want to also like just reinforce that me getting to the spiritual journey of wholeness has definitely been a journey, and I'm so appreciative to Allah, the Creator, and the Islamic faith and the Islamic community for giving me that sense of spiritual wholeness by
Mhm.
affirming every part of my identity and
Mhm.
letting me recognize that it is sacred and that it is purposeful. And for those teachings of justice, of dignity and community support that have helped me to embrace my full self without reservation. And I have found so much solace and connection with other queer Muslims and people who have understand, these layers of identity and sexuality and spirituality. And so, um, I, I I would be remiss if I didn't affirm and pay homage to those folks, who, throughout my spiritual journey, have supported me, have enlightened me, have taught me, and have let me know it's important for us to create spaces where each of our stories and our identities are seen as expressions of divine love and intention. And I think for me, what spiritual wholeness means is me finally being at peace with myself.
Mm.
I think I recognized that I was spiritually whole when when I walked into a mosque for the first time, just unapologetically and authentically myself, and I felt at peace. I didn't get any weird glares or stares, any whispers. I was invited to have a meal afterwards. And so for me, that spiritual wholeness means being at peace with myself. I think it means knowing that each aspect of my identity is divinely created, divinely crafted, and serves a purpose in the world. And I also think for me, spiritual wholeness means now moving in a way, in a direction where I help others get to that place of spiritual wholeness, because helping them helps to keep me spiritually whole. And so, yeah, I think it's standing confidently in my truth, and encouraging others as well to find that place in that space of spiritual wholeness. whether it's their own unique path to God or reflecting the divine in their own way.
I love that. Listen, Daniel, thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
Thank you
much.
for
being
having me.
here. You have enriched our knowledge system and increased it more. I done pull up the Quran. I'm gonna read me a few scriptures tonight and get into
Absolutely.
it. We
Oh, I would not be remiss before we
yes.
go. I would
Hmm.
not be remiss. There is an amazing organization called Muslims for Progressive Values.
Ooh.
Um,
Oh,
if you are, whether you are part of the Islamic faith or you're not, Muslims for progressive values has does a lot of great work around education about just the Islamic faith from a progressive lens, and a lot of the things that I kind of highlighted about the inclusivity in the Quran and um, homosexuality not being mentioned in the Quran. I know that their organization actually does, I want to say, gender diversity as well as sexual diversity educational workshops that kind of highlight and help people learn or unlearn what they think about the Islamic faith as it relates to the LGBTQIA plus community, women's rights, body autonomy. And so I definitely want to uplift that. Muslims for Progressive Values, as well as they do have in specific cities a list of affirming and welcoming mosques. So
Mm.
if you are a Muslim who is, traveling and looking to find, a affirming and welcoming mosque, they also have that as well. So shout out to my MPV family.
that's beautiful.
Yes, yes, you answered all my well, you answered all my follow-up questions because I was gonna
Okay.
ask for some resources if there was some space for people to go learn more. And so this looks like a
Yes,
really
absolutely.
great
Yeah.
resource. And how can people find you and follow you and all the things?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram, IG at daniel.j.downer. Threads, it's the same, daniel.j.downer. On Facebook, it's my name, Daniel J. Downer. You can connect with me. More than happy to have more conversations about just inclusivity within the Islamic faith, and yeah, would just feel free to use me as a resource in any capacity.
All right, well,
Definitely.
yes, take us on now, Jerry.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us. Thank you, everyone,
Absolutely.
for watching this. This has like been incredible.
Yes.
And I appreciate this perspective. I think one of the things that's important about the conversations like this is like we see that we all have so much more in common and
Yes.
stuff than we have apart. And there's like you said, there's us in all these different spaces.
Mhm,
And we really appreciate you just for sharing your perspective.
mhm.
And I think, this is a conversation, a part of the Holiness Project. If you all have not heard about the Holiness Project, please go on our website, check it out on YouTube. We have a lot of different things that are coming out. We just released another part of the Holiness Project with Reverend Chris Davis. There's more coming very soon, including more conversations like this. So thank you all. Thank you, Daniel. And I'll have a
Yes.
good night.